Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. I am so glad you could join us today.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. We have a fantastic topic that is not just useful for everyday life, but it's one of the single best ways to practice a really core part of English grammar.
Oh, that's so true. The simple present tense.
Exactly.
Today, we are deep diving into those automatic things we do every single day, the tiny little actions that actually make up our entire lives.
Yes, we are talking all about habits.
Mhm.
And if you're trying to move past that, the basic English level, talking about your habits is such a perfect way to start a conversation.
It really is.
It uses all that high-frequency vocabulary words like always, never, usually.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. And it kind of forces you to use the simple present tense correctly. It's practical, it's universal, and everyone can relate to it.
Exactly. So we're going to give you the practical vocabulary, all the structures, and tons of real-life, honest examples, both the good ones and the terribly expensive ones.
Oh, yeah.
So you can speak about your daily life with complete confidence. Okay, let's unpack this.
But hey, before we jump into the mechanics of daily life, if you are finding this deep dive useful, please just take a quick second to hit that like button and subscribe.
Yes, please do.
It really, really helps us bring these deep dives to more curious learners just like you.
Thank you so much. And hey, maybe share this deep dive with that friend who's always saying they never have time.
Or that friend who promised they would start exercising on Monday, but then, Monday came and went.
We all know that friend.
We all do.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now let's start with the basics. If we're going to do a deep dive, we need a really crisp definition. So simply put, what is a habit?
Well, a habit is something you do again and again, but I think the key word is automatic.
Mm-hmm.
It requires almost no conscious thought. It's an action, it could be physical or mental, that your brain has just sort of outsourced to its autopilot function.
That's a great way to put it. Outsourced to autopilot. You don't decide to do it. You just do it.
You just do it.
Yeah. For instance, the classic example is brushing your teeth after breakfast. You never really pause and think, should I pick up the brush now? It's just programmed in.
Right. It's kind of like plugging in your phone every night. You don't have a formal meeting with yourself to decide to charge it.
No.
It's just what happens. It's the default procedure.
Yeah.
And I think that's the core difference between an intentional action and a habit.
And that's so important for our brains. I mean, think about the energy it saves. If you had to consciously decide every single time to tie your shoes or, which hand to hold your fork in,
Oh, wow.
or even remember where you put your keys, you would be exhausted by 9 in the morning. Habits are basically survival mechanisms for efficiency.
And what's so fascinating here, if we connect this to the bigger picture, is the neurology behind it. A lot of habit researchers talk about the 3 R's, or what they call the habit loop.
Okay, the habit loop.
The cue, the routine, and the reward.
That's where it gets really interesting. Can you walk us through that?
Absolutely. So the cue is the trigger. It's what starts the action. For instance, your alarm clock rings, or you smell coffee brewing.
Okay, that's the cue.
Then there's the routine, which is the habit itself. So you get out of bed or you walk to the kitchen. And finally, the reward. That's the payoff. The feeling of being awake, or the satisfaction of completing a task, or the taste of that coffee.
So if the alarm rings, that's the cue. And my immediate action, my routine, is to check my phone for social media. The reward is that little hit of dopamine, right? That brief feeling of being connected or entertained. And that reward is what makes me want to do it again tomorrow.
Exactly. And the real challenge with bad habits is that the short-term reward is often so immediate and strong, even if we know the long-term consequences are negative.
Right.
We all know looking at our phone first thing in the morning is a bad habit, but that reward is just, it's instant.
That realization is huge, though. That habits are driven by rewards, not just willpower. It changes everything. It shifts the focus from, blaming ourselves to just analyzing the mechanics.
Yes. Okay, so let's use this framework to dive into our actual daily schedules.
I like that. And that brings us to our first practical tip, the power of routine. And we'll focus specifically on morning and evening habits. This is where we use those really strong adverbs, like always and usually.
Yes. Let's start with the morning. So what's one thing you always do in the first hour of the day?
I always make sure the curtains are open immediately. I need sunlight. I find that the natural light is my cue to, transition from sleeping to being active.
I like that, a sensory cue.
Yeah. If I don't get that light, I just feel sluggish all day.
That makes sense. For me, I have a habit that a lot of people talk about, which is a key concept in all the habit books. I always make my bed. every single morning without fail.
Oh, that is dedication. I sometimes make my bed, maybe 4 days out of 7, but not always. Why is that so important to you?
Because it's what some researchers call a keystone habit.
A keystone habit. Yeah, it's one small action that creates this domino effect. When I make my bed, I've already completed one task successfully, and that tiny win gives me a little momentum to tackle the next small task.
Ooh, I like that picture.
So a tidy bed doesn't just make the room look tidy, it kind of activates a psychological cascade of other good choices.
It's a fantastic distinction. So a keystone habit is one that naturally triggers a whole chain of other positive habits. It's like the foundation.
Precisely. Now let's look at another classic routine, breakfast. You mentioned you usually eat toast and tea.
Right, I usually eat toast. It describes a repeated state. And when I use usually here, it tells you that maybe, say, 80% of the time that's what I have. But occasionally I might have something else.
And notice the grammar there for everyone listening. I usually eat. That adverb of frequency usually goes right before the main verb, which is eat. That's a super important grammar point.
Yes, exactly. Now, you, on the other hand, you always drink coffee.
I do.
And you admitted it's a bit of a bad habit because of the sheer volume.
It is my beautiful, terrible habit. I always drink coffee. And to be really precise with the grammar, if I were using the verb to be, the rule actually changes.
Oh, that's a good point.
For example, I could say, I am never tired after the first cup. The adverb never comes after the verb to be.
That's a perfect connection for our learners. I'm never tired. I usually eat. Placement matters so much. Okay, let's move to the evening. What about your wind-down habits?
My evening routine is all about decompressing. After my workday is done, I often just sit on the sofa for maybe 10 minutes and do nothing. I call it my buffer zone.
A buffer zone. I love that. It's like a little space that separates your demanding work self from your relaxed home self. I should try that.
It's so important because if I don't have that 10 minutes of just nothing, I find I carry the stress of the day right into my evening. And after that, I often go to the gym.
And there we hear the word often, which tells us this happens many times,
Yeah.
maybe 3 or 4 times a week, but it's not 100%.
Exactly. Now, what about the pre-sleep routine? I always brush my teeth, of course. Then I have a really helpful habit. I read a physical book for about 15 minutes.
That is excellent. Reading before sleep is such a proven method for improving your sleep quality. It's a great transition habit.
It is. I'm giving my brain something focused and calm instead of something, chaotic and stimulating. I'm actively trying to replace the bad habit we both share.
Ah, the notorious bad habit, checking the phone in bed.
Ugh, it's the worst.
Even though we know the blue light is terrible for sleep and it stimulates the brain right when it should be relaxing, it's just such a powerful negative loop.
It really is. The cue is just being in bed. The routine is picking up the phone.
And the reward is that immediate distraction is so hard to beat.
Yeah, we need to introduce a new, stronger routine to defeat that phone habit.
And that leads us beautifully into our second tip, identifying bad and expensive habits. We have to be honest about them, not to judge ourselves, but just to understand the cost.
Honesty is step one. So I confess my overcaffeination and my bad work habit. I'm often late for meetings. I always think I have 5 extra minutes.
That's such a common psychological trap, the optimism bias about time.
Right?
The solution's probably to build a new tiny habit that blocks it. So instead of just thinking you have time, you need a little preemptive cue.
Like maybe setting an alarm that just says time to walk to the meeting room 5 minutes before it actually starts.
Exactly. That's a form of what's called habit stacking, which we'll talk more about later.
Yeah.
You stack a new habit onto an existing event.
Good idea. Okay, let's talk about bad home habits. I remember you mentioned leaving dirty dishes in the sink.
I know it's terrible. I often leave the dishes in the sink, and it contrasts so sharply with my desire for, an organized, clean apartment.
So what's the reward there?
The reward is just delaying a chore, which feels good for about 12 hours, but then the next morning, the punishment is having to face that mess first thing.
That morning punishment is exactly what makes it a bad habit. It causes stress right at the start of your day. Okay, now let's shift to the expensive bad habits. I have 2 that really hit my wallet.
Ooh, tell me.
First, biting my nails. It's a nervous habit. I often do this when I'm stressed or watching a scary movie or sitting in traffic.
So that's not financially expensive, but it's maybe emotionally expensive. It costs you your peace.
Precisely. The second one, though, is purely financial. I lose things. Constantly. Specifically, sunglasses. I estimated this year I've lost maybe 6 pairs of sunglasses?
6 pairs. Wow, okay, so if each pair costs, let's say, $30, that's $180 wasted in a year.
It's painful when you actually calculate it.
That is a very clearly defined, expensive bad habit.
And the solution isn't to buy cheaper sunglasses, right? It's to build the habit of putting them in the same spot, a little sunglass home, every single time I walk in the door.
That's a great actionable step. My most expensive bad habit is definitely my daily coffee purchase.
Yeah.
I have a perfectly good, high-quality coffee machine at home.
But you still buy one.
But I still buy a cup every single day from the coffee shop downstairs.
I get the draw, though. It's the atmosphere, the smell, the little walk. It's a ritual.
It is a ritual.
But let's do the math for the listener so they really understand the cost of these small habits. If your coffee costs $5 a day, 5 days a week, that's $25 a week.
Right, and $25 a week is $100 a month, which is, wow, that's $1,200 a year.
Whoa.
Just on a coffee I could make myself for practically free.
$1,200 a year for the convenience of walking downstairs. That is the true weight of an expensive habit. We know the better, cheaper option, but the ritual is so ingrained, it's really hard to break.
It requires substituting that routine with something just as satisfying. Maybe the habit needs to shift from buying coffee to making coffee and then taking a 5-minute walk around the block.
Perfect. So instead of focusing on stopping the bad habit, you focus on starting a new, better one that fulfills the same need. That's a key insight.
Okay, let's widen the lens a little and move from daily routines to the weekly schedule. That brings us to tip number 3, weekend habits and weekly routines. This is where we master those other adverbs, like often, sometimes, and time phrases, like on Fridays.
My weekend habits are pretty much the opposite of my weekday ones. The simplest example, I always wake up early during the week, but on weekends, I always sleep late.
How late are we talking?
10 or 11 a.m. It feels like a beautiful, necessary luxury. I feel like I need that time to fully disconnect.
See, and I am the opposite. I have a very strong internal clock. I usually wake up around 8, even on Saturdays, because that quiet morning time has become my habit.
A ritual.
My peaceful ritual, yeah. I drink coffee slowly, read the news.
So we have a great contrast. The habit of rest versus the habit of scheduled peace. Now let's look at things that happen regularly but are tied to a specific day.
I have one. I always check my bank account on Mondays. It's a very functional, if slightly scary, weekly habit.
That is so smart. It's a financial keystone habit, making sure you know where you stand. I have a weekly habit related to my commute. I usually take the bus to the office Monday through Thursday, but on Fridays I often drive the car.
Oh, interesting. Why specifically on Fridays?
Because my routine on Fridays usually includes a big shopping trip to the supermarket right after work. Driving the car just lets me carry all the groceries home easily.
That's a fantastic example for our listeners because it shows how context can dictate a habit. I also have a set day for a major chore. Sunday is my cleaning day. I always vacuum the floors, clean the bathroom, wash my clothes.
You are highly disciplined. I clean my apartment only sometimes, or, when it's really needed, maybe once every 2 weeks. If I used a frequency adverb, I'd say, I rarely clean the apartment on a set schedule.
And the beauty of the word rarely is it tells you it's maybe, 10% of the time? It happens, but it's very infrequent. You can see how these words let us paint such a precise picture of our lives.
And we can also use phrases that are even more specific, like I visit my parents once a month, or I go to the dentist twice a year. These aren't habits driven by cues, really, but more by calendar routines.
And often, especially in casual English, we use these to contrast our bad habits with what we want to do. Like, I rarely go to the gym, but I wish I could go 3 times a week.
That comparison gives context and a goal. Okay, we have talked about defining habits, good ones, bad ones, weekly ones. Now let's get to the most important strategy for change. This is our 4th tip, the start small strategy for change.
This is the critical takeaway. If you want to change a bad habit or build a new good one, the universal advice from every single expert is start incredibly small and be completely consistent.
Consistency beats intensity every single time. People fail because they set this monumental goal like, I will run 10 kilometers tomorrow, and when they can't do it, they feel defeated and just quit.
Exactly. The goal felt impossible from the start. Don't try to change everything on Monday. That creates way too much friction. If the action is too big, your brain will resist. You have to trick your brain into thinking the new habit is effortless.
Let's use those powerful, specific examples. If you want to start running, don't say, I'm going to run for an hour. Instead, just start by walking for 5 minutes. That's it.
5 minutes.
5 minutes feels possible. Anyone can do 5 minutes.
It's non-negotiable. It doesn't feel like a punishment. And once you're outside, walking for 5 minutes, your brain might say, well, I'm already here, maybe I'll walk for 8. That's how the momentum starts.
Or if you want to drink more water, a simple, healthy habit. Don't demand 8 glasses a day. Just place 1 glass of water on your desk every single morning. That's it. That's the first step.
The sight of the glass is the cue.
Exactly. And the cue makes the routine more likely.
I can absolutely do that. And for those who want to read more, which is such a common goal, don't commit to reading a whole chapter. Just read 1 page every night.
1 single page. It takes maybe 60 seconds. And what happens when you read 1 page? The story is usually interesting enough that you want to read a second one.
That positive loop is so powerful. And this is where we can introduce the concept of habit stacking. This is probably the most practical tip for integrating new, small habits.
Okay, habit stacking. That's the idea of linking a new habit you want to an existing strong habit you already have, right?
Exactly. The formula is basically, after I current habit, I will new habit.
You like that?
So instead of trying to remember to take my vitamins, I look at my strongest existing habit. After I drink my morning coffee, I will take my vitamins.
Perfect. Or to defeat your expensive coffee habit. After I wake up, I will immediately go to the kitchen and make my coffee at home. You're stacking the new action right onto your wake-up routine.
That gives it momentum. I want to build the habit of eating fruit every day instead of cookies, so I'll stack it. After I finish lunch, I will eat 1 banana.
1 banana. It's small, it's achievable, and it's linked to something you already do every day. That's how you design behavior.
Yes. And thinking about family, I really want to start the habit of calling my parents more often. I usually just text them, so I'll stack it. When I get in my car after work, I will call my mom. The car ride is the existing strong routine.
That is a beautiful, positive habit that requires no extra time at all. It uses what you could call pocket time, the time we spend commuting or waiting, to achieve a meaningful goal.
And this is how learning English is best achieved too. It's not about studying for 4 hours on a Saturday. It's about building the habit of engaging for 10 minutes every day.
Consistency is the secret ingredient. It truly is. Okay, now we have covered so much ground and used so many useful words, especially those adverbs of frequency, so it's time we consolidate that knowledge.
Let's jump into our vocabulary and grammar corner. We'll define these terms and, most importantly, review the grammar rules so you can use them and sound natural and confident.
Fantastic. Let's start with the definitions again just to make them stick. A habit is an automatic action. A routine is a sequence of habits. And let's add those 2 advanced terms we used. First, keystone habit. This is a small central habit that triggers a chain of other positive habits, like making your bed. It's a really powerful engine for change.
And second, habit stacking. That's linking a new small habit to an existing strong one using that formula. After I do X, I will do Y.
Now for the grammar, the adverbs of frequency. They tell us how often we do something. Let's review them in order.
Always, 100%.
Wow.
This is definitive, no exceptions. Example, I always lock the door when I leave home.
Usually about 80 to 90%. This is the standard, but there can be exceptions. Example, I usually take the bus to work.
Often, many times, maybe 60 to 75%.
Yeah.
A frequent action, but not necessarily the majority of the time. Example, I often meet my friends on weekends.
Sometimes 50% or less. It happens on occasion, but it's not a regular thing. Example, I sometimes eat chocolate for dessert.
Rarely, around 10 to 5%. This means it almost never happens. Example, I rarely drive my car during the week.
And finally, never 0%. It does not happen, ever. Example, I never drink black coffee, only lattes.
Now, for the crucial grammar point, placement. When you use the simple present tense to talk about habits, where do these adverbs actually go in the sentence?
Almost all of them. Always, usually, often, sometimes, rarely, never go before the main verb. Example, I usually eat toast. We always begin the deep dive on time.
Perfect. But there is that one huge exception that trips people up, the verb to be.
Yes. When you're using am, is, or are, the adverb of frequency goes after the verb to be. Example, I am never late for the studio. The weather is often beautiful in the morning.
That distinction is so key to sounding fluent when you describe your routines. It's why talking about habits is such powerful practice.
And let's not forget the distinction between healthy and unhealthy habits. Healthy means good for your body or mind, like exercise or reading. Unhealthy means it's not so good, like too much sugar or screen time.
And if you can structure a sentence using the simple present, one of these adverbs, and a health descriptor, you've totally mastered the core of this conversation.
For example, my healthy habit is I always go for a walk in the evening. My unhealthy habit is I often leave the dishes in the sink.
We have dissected habits, we've identified their costs, and we've provided the grammar tools. Now, let's apply this to our own lives right now.
We have to follow our own advice. It's time for tiny, actionable steps for today. We promised we would combat that phone in bed habit.
Okay, I am going to initiate a new habit stack tonight. After I finish washing my face, I will place my phone in the charging station across the room. I'm physically separating myself from the queue.
That is concrete and measurable. I love it. For me, I'm tackling the financial cost. My goal is simple. I will make coffee at home for 5 days this week, and I'm going to track the money I save.
Oh, nice.
That money I save is my immediate reward.
Excellent. The core message here for everyone listening is you absolutely can change your habits. It doesn't require some big spiritual awakening. It just requires design. Pick one small, easy thing right now.
That one small thing, when you complete it successfully, will build the momentum you need. It gives you that keystone win.
Now, let's do a quick recap of all our deep dive tips so we have a clear memory of today's conversation.
First, we defined habits as automatic actions driven by the cue routine reward loop. And we learned that the keystone habit is the most powerful starting point.
Second, we broke down life into sections: morning, work, evening, and weekly. We focused on using always and usually for daily things, and often and sometimes for weekly routines.
Third, we emphasized how important it is to identify your bad and expensive habits and to calculate their actual costs, like that $1,200 a year for coffee.
And most importantly, we learned the strategy for change. Start small and be consistent. And we introduced habit stacking, linking a new habit to an old one as the most effective tool for that.
Finally, we solidified the grammar. Adverbs of frequency go before the main verb, but after the verb to be. And you always use the simple present tense to describe your routines.
We are so happy you invested this time with us today, and we want to leave you with one final thought and a challenge for your English practice.
Our final thought is this. Remember, learning English is not a sudden action. It is a habit of practice. If you only practice sometimes, your progress will be slow. If you practice for 10 minutes always, you will see results. So be kind to yourself, but insist on consistency.
Beautifully said. Now here is our question of the day for your practice. This is your chance to use the grammar and vocabulary we covered.
Please answer this question in the comments below. What is one good habit you have and one bad habit you want to change using the language of frequency?
And give us a full sentence. For example, my good habit is I always read one page of an English book before bed. Or maybe my bad habit is I sometimes check my work email late at night.
We love reading your answers and seeing your progress. Your practice today is the most important habit you can build for yourself.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Keep practicing, keep learning, and remember, be kind to yourself.
We will see you next time for another deep dive. Bye, everyone.